UKMotorTalk at the SMMT Test Day 2024.
We are recording.
Well, hi.
Hi.
It's not that warm, is it?
It's not.
I thought it was going to be warmer than this. I put a bit of sun cream on. I don't think there was much point in that, but there we are. We are here. We're at Millbrook.
We are indeed, and as you can probably see behind us, there's a range of manufacturers. We're going to go have a look and drive some cars in just a moment, but we thought you might like to see some of the things that we're doing today, as well as hearing about them. So we've got some video on the go, so of course check us out on UKMotorTalk.co.uk and on YouTube, where we are at UK Motor Talk, and unsurprisingly, pretty much everywhere else we are UK Motor Talk. We are waiting to drive an Ami, but whilst we were doing that, we've been treated to look at this, a branded drink.
A Stellantis coffee.
A Stellantis coffee.
Go and ask for a Citroën coffee. We are at quite possibly one of the coolest coffee shops I've ever seen. We are at Box Drinks, and we are here with...
I'm Rob. Hi.
Hi. Very nice coffee.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, we have various different coffee vans. This is our little Citroën AK400. It's a 1973. It runs, so we drive it everywhere. So this was come from Nottingham yesterday, hour and 40 driving down the M1. So it's fully functional.
Top speed?
Top speed. It does 60, but then if you hit an incline,
not too bad.
It's okay, but then drops down to about 38 miles an hour on the inclines, which is a bit dodgy. But we're okay. We've got tactics, you know. Be bigger than what you are, just muscle yourself through. So yeah, fully functional barista coffee machine. So we do lots of corporate events, we do car events, we do festivals, we do private hire, weddings, all sorts. So we're wonderful, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's mixed emotions for me, because I love coffee and I'm enjoying this, but it's there's slight flashbacks, because I used to work in a restaurant on a coffee machine, so there's a little bit of sort of memories I've tried to repress. But I think this is a nicer way of doing it, because the scenery is quite pretty and it's variable, and if you don't like where you are, then you just pack up and drive down the road, don't you? And off you go.
Roadshow, yeah, that's right. Yeah. But yeah, feel free to jump on the machine. We can make us a flat white if you want.
I'm sure I can remember how to, but yeah, it's my old life, my previous life. Quite happy to leave that behind, I think.
But it's some dark memories there.
It's a wonderful bit of kit, because it is eye-catching. It's different, isn't it? But it's all quite well set up and self-contained.
So
and
we're plugged in today, but we can be off grid for about 6 or 7 hours. We can be on battery power and gas if we need to be. So yeah, we can be in the middle of the field anywhere we want, really. This is the main setup. So we've got Jade on the machine at the moment. We've got the on-demand grinder, 2-group automatic coffee machine, so that's all set up in the mornings. We dial it in, perfect 36 grams of coffee coming out, and it's all powered by the back half. So in the back we have water pumps. So behind these 2 big water tanks you've got a battery box with 2 big batteries in it. That's about 230 amp power, so that gives us the 7 hours running time. We've got a knock box, we've got a wastewater. And then on this power wall, we've got changeover switches from electric to battery. We've also got an LPG conversion underneath the van. That gives us the gas power for the coffee machine, because that's the bit that uses so much power. So that if it was on battery, it wouldn't last more than sort of 20 minutes otherwise. So yeah, it's all self-contained, really.
So no plans to EV convert the van then?
Not on this one, no. I think the weight limits would be a bit of an issue. So we bought this one because it's the AK400. It takes 400 kilograms in weight, which is ideal for me, because coffee machines are quite heavy, water's quite heavy. So yeah, we needed that extra. You can get an AK200, but that's obviously a little bit less. So yeah, the 400 is perfect for what we need. EV conversion would add too much weight to it.
Definitely, but no, it's a very nice coffee.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, very superb brew. It really is.
No problem.
Very
That's
nice.
quite all right.
Nice.
No worries.
Thank you very much.
Super. Thanks, guys.
We are inside the Citroën Ami Buggy.
Well, we're almost inside. I'm half in and half out at the moment. But this is cool. I like this. This is fun.
Right, so here we go.
Already I'm quite happy with this thing. It's chilly though, isn't it? It gives you the wind in the beard experience.
It does. There's a little zip out. You can probably see, just about see, there's little zippy out side window thingies, but you are very exposed. You've got a bar either side, which is released by a tag. And this is a car that's probably getting one of the most amount of looks here, I would say.
Yeah, it's mainly looks of bemusement and chuckling. But...
If you're conscious, self-conscious, you probably don't want to be sat in this car because people can see, well, pretty much everything, really. There's not a lot of shoulder room, is there?
No, but it does have a fanny pack, as the Americans would call it.
It does, mounted to the steering wheel. There is a bum bag type thing, or just avoiding a crater. Oh. So this has pseudo McPherson strut suspension.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what pseudo McPherson strut is, but
No, here we go. Right, so we are heading out onto the city circuit.
where is the city circuit?
That's a good question.
And what colour is the city circuit?
That way, to the left. To the left, here we go. Friendly marshal's pointers.
This way.
I guess so. Yeah, here we go. Yes, city's on the right, so there we go.
There's the big, scary no entry sign.
Straight
Make
over.
sure I come to a stop.
So in case you're wondering where manufacturers come to test their vehicles, this is it.
Beep, beep.
There's a chuckle there from the marshals. This is Millbrook. So there is a huge alpine circuit here, which runs up and through some really twisty off-camber roads, following a new mini just over there. There's a high-speed bowl, of which we can do about 100 miles an hour today, and there is the city course, which we're heading to now. You can probably hear the amount of wind.
Quick.
Ooh. But it is quite good fun.
Let's do a stop and a 0 to 20 dash, because really this is a city car, so that's the most important thing.
Right, here we go, 0 to 20. Oh. It's probably not the most refined, really. You might also notice that as we've got the doors peeled back, they somewhat obstruct your shoulders. So it's a problem for a passenger. Is it all right for the driver?
It's probably a bit more comfy if you're on your own, I would hazard, but
This is an epic track, though. I'm just going to show you.
okay. This track is hilarious.
Right, so this is the city track, which is excellent. Oh, it's a very tight, twisty, very well suited to the Ami, and we're catching this Mini. As we're going through these very tight, twisty roads. So if you imagine that you're driving this thing and you live in Paris, or I don't know, Naples, or
this is spot on for the middle of Paris. This is absolutely ideal.
It really
It's probably
is.
small enough. I think you can drive it on the pavement, to be fair, given the size of it.
What else can I tell you about it? Well, air conditioning, don't really need to worry about that. There's a great sunroof, sort of big open zipped out section. It's a long way away from me though, it's not full length. Sort of scaffolding that holds the roof up. The controls are really simple, so there's a place to put your phone. That is your audio, and there's a place to plug it in. There's a hazard light switch.
USB-A.
Yep. Reverse neutral drive.
Shopping holder.
Shopping
handbag
holder,
type
yeah.
thing.
I'm not sure I trust my takeaway, not just about the side door. Some little inserts in the top here. A horn on the end of the indicator stalk, which is lovely. And an indicator, and that's about it really. Heater, well, I assume it's got one. The normal Ami does. It just blows very hard at the windscreen. But that is about it. Oh, and you've got a handbrake. Through these tight, twisty roads, though, yeah. This is great.
Easy to park, then.
Yes. Right then. Still record, you have to pull the yellow tag on the dash. Taking the door. Actually, the seat's in the right position. Bump back is irritating. Why then? Right, first things first, yes, this is not a quick car, but as you might expect for a car with no doors, visibility is excellent, isn't it? Well, this is good fun. It is twisty, this little course. I would say that probably, although the driving position feels pretty good, I could do with the brake pedal being a little bit further forward so that it's not obstructed by my position really, and by that what I mean is it seems a bit too high up and a bit too close to the throttle, considering that there is an entire pedal box down here that you could use, but that's not particularly uncommon in a French car.
What I do like is the, just like a Caterham 7, you can see the steering working away as you're driving along. So it's very Caterham 7 aerial atom. You can see the engineering at work there.
You can indeed. It is a great thing. The bum bag on the steering wheel, that sort of gets in the way, and to be honest, I don't really understand that. And the mirrors do remind me a lot of bike mirrors, but this is not a car. Hashtag not a car, in fact, if you read the blurb. So this is a quadricycle, which means it'll do just under 40 miles an hour, which is probably fine, actually, when you eventually get there. Much like a go-kart, when you come out of a corner, it feels a bit like you've bogged down a bit, I would say.
Yeah, it's almost like it'll either turn or accelerate at the same time. It'll turn or it'll accelerate, but not both at the same time.
Indeed, yeah, definitely that. So, and when you get a crosswind, it is a little bit chilly, truth be told. But then it's got no doors, so what do you expect?
I was going to say, we have got the doors such as they are completely open, so yeah, it's bound to be a bit chilly, isn't it? I'm glad I brought the coat.
Yes, we are stuck in traffic, which is, I suppose, what you expect from a city course, really. There's a taxi. All right, mate.
Can't park there, sir.
Can't park there, sir. Here we go, we're going for it. I will say at this point, if you want to be in something that's relatively good around a twisty, tight street, clearly this is something that's better than the MG3, which is in front of us, because although he's definitely got us on the straights, when it gets to the twisty bits, we are moving so much faster.
But the display, not that it's the brightest.
Oh, so I've got headlamps on, hang on.
Not the easiest to see.
Let me turn the headlamps off. Oh, no, where are they? Here we go. So I'm busy concentrating driving. Is that it? No, that's the wiper.
Those are the wiper.
The wiper. Those are the wiper.
So yeah, not that the display's the easiest to read, but we have nearly all the battery and we've done some miles. Is there a distance to empty there?
It's this one, isn't it?
Yes.
I wonder if you can go around again.
It's a 37 to needing a recharge, apparently. So obviously not a huge range, but not a huge car, and it's for buzzing around the city streets. But for what it's supposed to do, I quite like this. It's nice to finally drive it, isn't it? Because we've looked at it many a time, but to finally drive it is good.
However, look at this. I don't know if you can see in front. There is a fan car called Murray Fan Car T50 there, just about to join the high-speed bowl, which I imagine would be great
is that
fun.
what we heard earlier that sounded fruity?
No, what we heard earlier was... Oh, yes, you could well be right. It could
Yes.
be that. Yes. What I'm also going to do is just pull off down here, just so that you can see what this thing looks like on the outside. Bear with me a second, because I'm going to take the phone. If you listen to this on the podcast, I apologise, because obviously you can't see what it looks like. However, go to YouTube or look at us online. Right, here we go. So, to get out, pull this tag. And there we go. So you've got a rail. I'm going to take the microphone with me so you can also see it. I'm going to leave Jim in the car. Right, so this is the Ami Buggy. Pretty cool. Green, bronze wheels. Ami Emu. And you get an idea of the sort of size inside. So the passenger sits back behind the driver, just give you a bit more shoulder room. And being an Ami, it's the same at the back as it is at the front. So if you look at the back panel here with the tail lamps and indicators, ignore the spoiler of course, and look at the sides, you'll notice that the car is basically the same in both directions. Right, we've just got back with the Ami Buggy, and Jim has spotted an extra useful feature.
If you ever feel pointless, don't worry. There is a lock for this car. Not quite sure why, but it does have one.
There we go. So if you need to, you can lock this. There you go. You are literally in my hands here. So this is the front of the new MG3, which I think has quite a striking face.
Carbon fibre.
There is some faux carbon fibre. I would say that probably needs a slightly bigger wheel. It looks a bit underwheeled to me. Looking at the side. Yeah, it's quite a handsome car, perhaps a bit tall at the back. Some nice design in terms of the shape and the lines. A smart car, isn't it? Well, initial impressions. This is the car that's due to effectively take the crown from Fiesta, if you listen to what MG is saying anyway. It's quite a nice thing to sit in, isn't it?
Yeah, with the demise of Fiesta, there's certainly a large, small car-sized hole in the market, which all the other manufacturers are going to be clamouring to try and fill. I quite like this. Get in, turn it on, drive it. We haven't done too much in it yet, but it's quite a pleasant thing. Materials look nice. Reasonably softish touch plastic up there. All the bits that you touch are maybe a little on the hard side, but it's probably about the quality you would expect. But the steering wheel is nice. Gear selector's a little bit cheap, but okay.
I think when we compare this thing to a Fiesta, because let's face it, that's what we're here to do. This is a 1.5 hybrid, so it has an engine as well as having the electric motor, which is able to drive the wheels. My initial impressions were pretty good, actually. The seats are comfy and they're nice and soft. They seem to be relatively well supportive. Notice that the steering wheel doesn't seem to adjust for reach as well as rake, which I thought was a bit weird, to be honest. We're just about to head out onto the real roads here, so we're just heading out of Millbrook now. It's boinging at us for something. Oh, it thinks we're doing faster than whatever the limit is. So this car has traffic sign recognition, which you might just be able to see out there. It's got a little screen above the top, which on this is a bit dark, truth be told, from where I'm sitting. It might be better for you.
No, it's perfect from where I'm sat. It's very good.
So this gives you your speed and all the other vital information. You've also got a touch screen down here. There's a shortcut button to get you home and one for the climate control, but it is touch screen, which of course is the way that things are these days. Like many people, I tend to prefer real buttons, but there you go, it is what it is.
It does appear to be constantly telling us when the next service is due, which could get a little bit irritating.
14,000 miles.
You've got heated seats and a heated steering wheel, which is nice. Lots of space for storage and things, cup holders, and the circular drive dial selector there. I think the trim looks quite nice. So you've got soft touch bits.
Co-driver.
Here we go. Turn left at the exit of Millbrook Proving Ground. Continue over level crossing in 1 mile.
Through water splash.
Through water splash. So here we go. There are some nice little touches in here, like the frameless mirror. I'm just having a look at the doors as well. So the textures all look pretty good. Top of the dash is quite hard, but you wouldn't know it to look at it. To touch it, yeah, well, the door cards are plasticky. There's some soft touch stuff down here, but it looks pretty good. And I guess you've got to consider that this is a small car, and if you compare it to something like a Fiesta, then yeah, it's probably comparable.
I've spotted something. I'm not sure if it's an indication of performance or whether it's just optimism, but we have a menu called Overspeed Threshold. So presumably this bongs at you when you're going over a certain speed, so 20, 30, etc. It goes all the way up to 150 miles an hour. Does that mean the top speed of this car is over 150 miles an hour?
Infotainment then, and it's got a decent rear view camera, resolution's okay, and a 360 degree camera in here.
What do you think?
Do you know what? From where I'm sitting, I reckon this is pretty good. So the driver's display that's directly in front of me gives you pretty much everything you need. It's nice and clear. Doesn't really show from where you're sitting on the passenger side, but it does give you all the information you want, and it is right in front of you. The steering, it's not quite up to the same level of feel and feedback as the Ford, and to be honest, I'd rather it moved a bit closer to me than it currently is. So I like to sit a bit further back, my legs out in front of me, but the seat's comfortable and it's supportive. Visibility is pretty good.
You can get reasonably comfy being, well, I'm 6 foot and you're, what, just under 5'10", so
exactly that.
we both managed to get roughly comfortable.
Yeah, in a similar sort of position, I think, as well. It's a nice car. I can see all the way around me fine. I can feel very confident in threading it through any sort of gap. It's just a good small car. What really impresses actually is the performance, which is, well, excellent. It has this hybrid motor which is attached to the engine, and it gives you just enough. It's not probably the smoothest of handover. You do feel it when it thunders into life, but considering the size of the car and the price point, and bearing in mind this thing's just over £20,000, there's well, as we drive it, it really is very good, all things considered. Engine, well, there's a little bit of noise, and wind noise is acceptable rather than excellent. But otherwise, yeah, I quite like this. I think it's a good small car. And considering that the market seems to be devoid of lots of good small cars as it was, this has earned its place, I would say, really. What's the alternative then? Not a Fiesta. We've got the Suzuki Swift, of course.
The Alpine is a good small car.
That is a good small car.
We have averaged 40.9 to the gallon, with really no regard for fuel economy whatsoever, so it seems very good.
How do you dial up the regen?
Left star, so at the moment you are on 3s, you have all the regen.
Okay. So I can't say that that's...
One regen back off.
I can't notice any of the regen at all, to be honest.
There we go.
Okay, there we go, that's more like it. It's amazing what a difference it makes having that extra hyper assistance to the torque, isn't it?
So, summing up, what would we say? I think overall, average interior quality. I think it's about the same, if not slightly better than a Fiesta, isn't it? There's certain bits that are nicer, certain bits that are slightly cheaper. You notice the brake pedal rubber down there was a bit slightly cheaper looking. Top of the dash maybe a little bit, but that bit's nicer. That bit's maybe a bit worse. That bit's a bit worse, but that bit's a bit nicer. So I'd say, for given the Fiesta size hole that Ford have left in the market, I think on average this is probably slightly above a Fiesta, I would say. So I think it fits in quite well. I think they've done quite a good job with this, and I know it's all relative, but it's not a bad price, is it?
I think it's entirely recommendable at the money that it is. We were just discussing a moment ago, if your dad came to you and said, look, I need an automatic vehicle, I don't want to spend much more than 20 grand, can you recommend a car to me? The answer is all of us would say yes. This is a car that's entirely recommendable. Okay, the steering could do with a bit more feel, but the handling is still pretty good. Everything is comfortable, everything is relatively easy to use. There's a big touchscreen that's relatively responsive. Yes, it would have been nicer to have proper climate control, but in terms of actually buttons rather than being able to adjust it on the screen. But you know what? It's fine. It's what you'd expect. The mirrors seem pretty big. You've got really good visibility behind you as you sit from the driver's seat and look out. Yeah, it's a good small car, which is what you want. Would you take it out for a thrash on a Sunday? I'm going to say probably not. And yes, when you're pressing on, the engine does sound a bit harsh. But who's going to really do that? Is this the right car for you if you want to do that? Probably not. The performance is good, more than probably most people will actually need.
And we are now averaging 50 mpg, that's very good.
Yeah, absolutely excellent. So I would say this is another well done to MG, really. It does make you wonder what some of the other manufacturers are thinking when it comes to producing small cars. Appreciate that they're expensive to make, but clearly there's a market for them. And once customers are in a small MG, when they then need a bigger MG, are they going to do that? Well, they are probably just going to go for an MG4 or something else, aren't they? Right, so here we are, outside of the EX30. I think it's quite a sharply styled thing. There's definitely bits of Polestar about it, isn't there, with the tail lamps, but also a lot of Volvo as well. Big 20-inch wheels and a very sharply styled front end. Look at that.
I quite like this.
So this is the new Volvo EX30. We decided that despite the fact we were tempted to take out the twin motor version, which is rapid, this is the rear-wheel drive extended range, which is the one that probably, if you're interested in this car, you're likely to buy. It feels lovely, doesn't it? It feels really good quality in here. Despite the fact that there's not very many buttons and things, it did just take us a moment to figure out how to turn the radio down, which is slightly irritating. Everything, despite being made of recycled things, feels lovely.
So, this car has a lot of things that make you go, ooh, in it. And I can't do a high-pitched ooh, because my throat is still a little bit sore. Got some more storage under here.
Yep, somewhere for your phone to charge up down here. Now this dash is all made of recycled bottles and all kinds of bits and pieces, and it actually has a bit of texture to it, so it looks like it should be flat, but you can actually feel it. It's quite tactile. The door handles at the side here though, those are especially lovely. Really nice to hold on to. Reassuring thunk.
Very well insulated. Listen to the noise outside. Very good.
You've got a Harman Kardon bar across the top of the dashboard, so gives you a bit more space in the door pockets for things, which is quite nice. There's no speakers in there. And just lots and lots of nice details. Frameless rear view mirror, big glass roof. This is the ultra spec, this one, to just point out. So this is the high spec. It is nice. Seats are comfortable and supportive, and pretty much exactly what you'd expect from Volvo. So
They're always very reassuring cars.
let's get going and have a look.
Everything is okay.
Everything is okay.
Everything is okay. I don't mind the steering wheel. I think it's all right.
I don't know, I couldn't get on with the Allegro squareness of it, but it just felt weird in my hands. There's a nice touch though, as it adjusts. The little monitor on top just changes its position so it's in the right place for you. And another thing, the door mirrors, when you adjust those, it's not the mirror that moves, it's literally the whole casing, so the whole thing adjusts itself, so it does look really quite smart. And it hustles this thing too, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was a gentle tickle of the throttle to get up to speed. Really quite comfy in here, comfy driving position, good range of adjustment. No, I quite like this. I'd like a speedo in the middle though, having it up there is a bit weird.
Yes, everything's on the central screen, everything. So from the climate controls to the seat controls to the whole bit. Otherwise, the electric window controls are in the centre here, with a little button to tap for the rear, sort of much like the Volkswagen. And everything otherwise, including the mirror controls, is indeed on the central touchscreen. So one thing I noticed when I was driving this is that there is a reasonable amount of body roll. Now, this isn't a sporty car really, it's not designed to be sporty. It's rolling on 20s, the right, I would say, is pretty good, pretty compliant. And there is a reasonable amount of body movement on top, but it recovers pretty well. So we've driven lots and lots of EVs that have lots and lots of power, but this, which is really quite pacey, it picks up beautifully. Does seem to be quite happy to change direction relatively well, although for me the brakes could do with a bit more feel. They're there and they do cut in, but you're quite a long way down the pedal before you get them to where you want them to be. On the road, that's probably okay. We're on the Alpine circuit here at Millbrook, which means that as we go through some of the corners, they've been designed to be off camber, awkward, particularly tight. We're just coming up against a BMW M60, just bracing myself there as we go up the hill into a wave of torque. Chasing around a Kia Picanto, look at that. Really is quite pretty here. If you've never had the opportunity to drive here, and indeed not everyone does, it is a fantastic little circuit this. So it's one-way traffic, which means you can be certain of nothing coming up the other way, which means you can use all of the road, which is quite nice. And there are areas where you can overtake, but it is very twisty. There's some areas where you do need to brake relatively hard if you're going at any sort of pace, and of course by any sort of pace we mean up to the posted speed limit, which of course we never exceed. And there's some very steep gradients. There we go. So as much as you probably see on the road, that's 14% that one, and then a crest and some beautiful curves as well. We're back at the Volvo stand, having been out and done the Alpine circuit, which hopefully you've just seen. Well, there's no point in me saying that really, in fact, is there? Because you will have just seen it. We're back having just done the Alpine circuit. This thing is surprisingly quick, considering it's 272 horsepower, which is around about the same as a Mach-E extended range rear wheel drive. It's much quicker, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll have to find out what it weighs, or I don't know how the gearing works because it's one gear, isn't it? So I don't know if they top speed is, lower or higher or what really, but it shuffles along very nicely, doesn't it? Slightly too soft on the damping, I think, for chucking it around the Alpine course. Just a bit, when the movement gets going, it takes a while to settle down, but it can either be like that or it can be very jiggly and very bouncy and a bit uncomfortable. I think the sort of car it's designed to be, probably more comfortable is better, I would say.
Yeah, I think you've got to consider the fact this is still a Volvo, and Volvos, yes, they have, they're sporty looking, but they're not, I think, ever intended to be an entirely sporty car. If I was going to buy a car like this to move my family around in, and this would be a genuine consideration, I think, for me, this is about perfect. You can imagine driving down the motorway, popping your foot down when you need to overtake something. It's got the power, you've got the confidence that you need there to do it. For me, when you are pressing on, yes, you've got the body roll. It does help a bit, I think, in terms of the overall feel of the car. I think a little bit of body roll is okay. I know we've said this before. The only thing that really does bug me, apart from the weird sort of Allegro-shaped steering wheel, which for me was irritating, and where the button section is a bit too thick, perhaps, behind the back of your hand, it's the brake pedal modulation, which I found there's not a lot of feel, but not a lot until you get right down in the pedal, and then it's sort of there, but I just felt like I needed just a little bit more for me.
Yeah, I think a little bit more bite on the pedal would be nicer, just that initial. I think when you press them hard and use them, they work, but I just prefer that initial slightly sharper bite, so you know they're going to work now rather than when you get there.
Yeah. One pedal, which just is okay. It's not particularly fierce. I'm not sure if we can adjust the regen. I couldn't see a way to do it, and everything is done through the touchscreen. So things like adjusting the mirrors, you couldn't do when you're moving. I know that, of course, we shouldn't do it, but sometimes when you're reversing back into a space, you just want to drop the mirror down a little bit so you can see behind you. If you're reversing back against a curb, you don't necessarily want to do the 20-inch alloys. Does have quite a good camera though, which is well, it's a rear camera and a 360 camera as well. Not quite so funky as the MG3, which we drove earlier, but still pretty good. Right, it's lunch break time, and it seems to come around really quickly by the time we've driven a few cars. But anything that you've got your eye on for this afternoon?
It has come around quickly, hasn't it? I mean, I think I'm just going to have to go and have another look at the Volvo 262, and they were kind enough to let us sit in it as well, and I felt like I don't know, a sort of slightly American-looking Luther. It was just a wonderful thing to sit in, but a big old Luxo barge of a car on 14-inch alloys with 185 width tyres. So it's amazing how much the game has moved on from the Volvo that we drove that had 20s to the big car of olden times that was rolling on 14. So as wheel sizes get bigger.
Beautiful tactile buttons in that, which is the perfect, well, it's the complete opposite, isn't it, really, of a touch screen, but there we go, that's the past. I have to say, I'll probably be crucified for this, but that would look cool running on some maybe slightly more period correct but modern rims and something like Air Ride or something. It would ruin it, so you could never do it, but it would look cool, properly gangster. For me, well, Mazda are here, as is the MX-5, the current version, new version, and also a Mark 1 with the pop-up headlamps, and I really want to drive that. Really want to drive that after lunch. So I'm going to make a beeline for that at the earliest opportunity. So, yeah, that's going to be one for me. There are a few of the newer entrants into the market as well. So we've got some entrants from China here. We've got a Moda and their premium brand Jaiku. Never quite sure how to pronounce it.
Jaiku.
Maybe exactly that. We've also got BYD, which of course people have heard of. They are huge. We've got Subaru here. We've got KGM, which were SsangYong, and in other markets are KG Motors. But KG Motors doesn't really work in the UK, so it's KGM Motors. So KG Motors in the UK. We've got Aura here as well with its funky cat. Yeah. What is interesting is a few of the more traditional manufacturers, like Ford, which are just, well, not really showing very much at the moment. They've got a Courier and a Transit, but they haven't even got anything electric here, which does seem a bit odd to me.
There's a Ranger as well for the off-road course.
Is there? Okay.
Well, there's a Ranger. It looked like it was covered in mud, so I assume it's been on the off-road course, and they haven't just not bothered to wash it on the drive here.
We're looking dangerously close to a nostalgia trip here as we wander over to 50 years of golf on the Volkswagen stand. And there's a Mark 1 4-door, well, 5-door, and Jim's gone all misty-eyed, so I'm going to pass you over.
Rolling on teeny tiny wheels. This is on 155/80/13, so teeny tiny wheels. But this thing is just absolutely beautiful. It's perfection. It's black, and it's a solid black, and it's wonderful. It's obviously been completely restored or either mothballed from new. I'm not quite sure. It's the GL Wolfsburg edition. My first car, of course, being a Mark II 1.8 GL, so I'm fond of a GL Golf, and it's just wonderful, this thing. I don't think you need anything more than this, ever, to be totally honest. Oh, Gates has fallen over. Gates is on the floor. He's having a look underneath. What report from the undercarriage?
There is definitely an undercarriage, and it's very, very clean on top of this. It's beautifully detailed as well, not at all swirly, just a really deep black. Someone's either taken very, very good care of this, or it's been very nicely painted. And the underside just looks pretty original. I was expecting it to be a nut and bolt job, but actually I think it is just original underneath.
Hold on, I'm going in.
He's going down. People are looking at us. We are underneath a Volkswagen Golf.
Yeah, I would say this could actually be original, couldn't it, rather than nut and bolt restored, and as you say, just really well kept up to, possibly.
Well, it does say Das Original 1983 in the window. I'm going to have a look. Is it open? Yes, it is. Oh, that smell. Mileage 123,083. So yeah, it has actually done some miles. It's not a no mileage car. Oh, it's lovely though, isn't it? Look at that interior. 4 on the floor.
The smell. We're doing a bit more on video this year for you, but we need the technology to bring you the smell of these cars, because this is wonderful. Well, the sun's come out a little bit. Anyway, we're in a Swift, a Suzuki Swift.
New Suzuki Swift, as it happens. And what can I tell you about it? Well, first things first, everything is made out of plastic. Everything is plastic. The doors are plastic, the dash is plastic, everything. The centre console bit's plastic. It just feels very plasticky. Reminds me a bit of the old Micras, if you remember. So when you used to have this at the K10, K11 Micras, where everything was just made of plastic, just much like that, really.
It is doing 56.1 to the gallon, so that's not too bad. What did you just do?
Change down a gear.
It's a manual gearbox. Look at that. That is a rarity in this day and age, to be fair, isn't it?
It is, and with the Fiesta gone, and the Fiesta being about £22,000, and this being just over £20,000, this car is, of course, entirely relevant. So, what's it like? Now, the other cars, we've been trying them on different circuits, including the city circuit. With this one, we're trying it on the Alpine route. Now, oh my God, what happened there?
Nope.
I think the ABS has kicked in.
You've broken it. Oh.
It's not happy.
Nope, Gates, you've broken it.
I appear to have done that, yeah. It's decided it is not happy with me.
You have the mechanical sympathy of Sarah Connor.
For whatever reason. Well, anyway, so back to the point. We're on the Alpine circuit because we're trying to figure out whether this car can be as fun to drive as a Fiesta is. And I'll tell you this, there's more body roll than a Fiesta, and it's much harder work. Now, is anyone going to come past me? No, there's a Mazda MX-5 behind us, and we have left them in the dust until we get right to the top of the corner.
That's the Mark 1 MX-5 you want to have a go in.
I do want to have a go in there in just a moment. Well, I would say there's a bit of understeer, but the road holding is pretty good. Braking hard. Rolling over into that right-hander, and yeah. Do you know what? It's not bad at all. The interior quality, it's not as good as the MG3. What is happening? be honest, the traction control, which just keeps limiting the power to about 20 brake horsepower, is a problem. I need to try and figure out if there's a way to turn that off. That would be very disconcerting if you were on the road. There's an MG3 in front of us now, in fact. What do we think to the looks of this thing? Well, in front of that, conveniently, is another Suzuki Swift, which the guy at Suzuki described as, well, yellow, but it's sort of green, isn't it, really? Like a washed out green.
Minty green. Pistachio.
I'll go with pistachio. I'm not entirely convinced on the looks. I used to really, really like the Swift, the old Swift Sport. Hard on the brakes here. Into the right. Here we go.
This is post lunch. I will point that out as well.
Yes. If it wasn't for the nannying bits and pieces, actually this is relatively good fun. And considering that this is more of a torture test of a car's handling than it is a realistic representation of it, this is pretty good. I would like to turn the traction control off. Ah, no, that's not it. There's lots of buttons here, which is a good thing, because of course you need to have buttons on cars, and they should have buttons. This does. Although there's lots that goes through the touchscreen, it does have proper controls for the climate, thank God. Collision off. Traction control off. I found the button. It's here on the dash. Good. Unfortunately, it's too late for me, so you'll be able to tell me what it's like when we go around, presumably, the same circuit in just a moment. Right, we've just stopped. So, there's the traction control button. And how retro is this? You've got the bonnet release and fuel cap release under the dash, physical buttons, physical levers, which reminds me a lot of the Japanese cars as well. This really does remind me of the older Micras, I have to say. Yeah, a couple of things. Clutch pedal, very springy, a little bit vague maybe, and the same with the gear selection here. So it's in gear. This is a brand new car. There's a lot of movement there. It doesn't feel, you wouldn't say it's rifle action, but there we go. Over to you, Jim.
Just in terms of the way I'm sat in it now, the driving position, steering wheel, gear lever, it's almost identical to the Mark I Golf I've just sat in terms of slightly just not quite fitting right. It's, as you say, it's a little bit old-fashioned, and it's very old-fashioned in its dimensions and its ergonomics, I think.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing. It does feel that little bit older. It does feel a bit older to me. And bearing in mind that I appreciate that these days, for a new car, perhaps £20,000 is not a lot. It's probably that magic number, in fact, that we tried to get beneath. But
damped, I think, isn't it? You could hear those more than you could feel them, couldn't you? I think it's...
Whether people watching this will agree, as I'm jiggling around from the passenger seat. I think when you're in the driver's seat, you've got a steering wheel to cling on to, haven't you? And you can feel it, but...
yeah, that's always the thing from the driver's seat. You're expecting the inputs and the direction and direction change and whatever else. So it's... yeah, it always feels jigglier or bouncier or rougher from the passenger seat, but I think it's okay. Just okay. Isn't it? It's quite literally okay.
Yeah, I think dynamically it is okay. It clings on better than I thought it probably would. And we're going to find out what it's like in an overtake now. We go past this Isuzu. I think power-wise, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
1.2. Mild hybrid. I think this uses a 12-volt hybrid system as opposed to a 48, which is unusual.
And the good thing is, you can put all the power down straight away, because it's got so little power, but you can put the power down before the corner. And because there's so little of it, you know you're still going to be alright on the way out of the corner. Right, I think I've nailed this. So this reminded me of sitting in the Mark I Golf from earlier on today. I think this car is perfect if you're a younger driver, or you're a set of parents looking to buy your kid who's just passed their driving test a car, but you want them to have something that's new and modern and safe and reliable and whatever else, but it's still a car. It still feels like a car. There's 3 pedals. It's not an SUV. It's not electric. It's not automatic. It doesn't park itself. You need to remember to pull the lever in the middle, which is an actual handbrake, rather than relying on the computer to turn it on for you. I think this is an car. This is literally a car. So it's I still think there's a place for cars like this. I don't think it's I think to call it old-fashioned is probably quite cruel. I think it's actually just what a car is, and it's all a car needs to be, and I actually quite like it for it. I think it's quite charming. So yeah, well done, Suzuki.
Well, we couldn't record whilst driving this one. Well, there's a couple of reasons why it's tricky for us to record, and we've decided to do this one as audio, I think, just because it's that bit easier. But we are inside an embargoed BMW i5 M60, which is mind-bendingly fast. Some stats for you: 593 brake horsepower, 0 to 62, 3.9 seconds. But to be honest, it feels a lot faster than that. The torque is just insane. Range is 452 kilometres, which is what, 300-ish, 300 and a bit miles?
About 300 miles, something like that.
Yeah, and we've just taken it up around the Alpine circuit, and it is so unbelievably fast that you pull G's in acceleration, you pull G's whilst you're cornering, and you pull G's whilst you're braking, and yeah, it's tricky, isn't it?
I really do quite like this car. I mean, it's a fast wagon, so what's not to love? It is biblically fast, but as per the i4 M50 that we drove at the last SMMT test day, the chassis, the dynamics, the turning, the steering, for the weight of the car, it's just you can't believe it weighs as much as it does. For the performance it's got, it's phenomenal. I'm quite taken with this thing. It's a little bit chintzy here and there. The carbon fiber's a bit almost too carbon fiber. The dash has all got a funny red colour now we've turned it off, but it's covered in sort of weird crystals, and there's a bit of Swarovski-looking crystal. I'm not keen on that, I'll be totally honest, but as a thing to drive, what a thing.
The quality is beautiful, and as far as BMW's current design strategy goes, I would say this thing is restrained. Yes, I agree with you. The drive selector looks a bit like an ashtray that you might find in your nan's sitting room. And the same with the random crystal bits in the dash, but they do light up nice. It has touch-sensitive air vents, which I find a bit weird. And much like the i4, it has an incredible soundtrack, and it makes some wonderful noises whilst you're driving. This thing is also an RS6 alternative, I would say. It's £122,000.
It is a lot of cash, isn't it? It's a lot of car, but it's a lot of cash. I mean, you could buy somewhere to live for £122,000, so it's an odd one.
Well, it's 264.99. Why would you have the 99p? Why is anything point something of a p? It doesn't make any sense. But it is, yeah, it's incredible. This thing has adaptive suspension, which is, well, it's just insane. The way that this thing grips and goes and handles, the traction is just phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, the grip out of every corner, you just point it where you want to go, put your foot down, and it just grips and goes. It's point to point. I can't think of too many quicker cars than this. And point to point with the family in the back of it and the luggage, and we're off to Disneyland in the end of the summer. It says 3 hours from Calais to Disneyland. In this, I'd be guessing it's an hour cross country. It's insane. It's brilliant.
It does have an internal camera, which I find very weird, up in the centre console. But there you go. Presumably, so you can watch as your passengers' faces all just melt. Really, quite something. Quite a car.
Right, we are in a Clio, and we are in a Clio Esprit Alpine.
Yes, which confusingly doesn't give it any more power. What it actually does is give you a higher specification of trim. This is a manual.
It is. 3 pedals, gear lever, and I quite like it in here. This dashboard, that fabric's nice. Little tricolor there. That's a nice touch.
It feels like it's been thought about, doesn't it? So there's some really nice touches. The headlining is nice.
Steering wheel is nice. Check the headlining, as we say. Look at that. That's different. We like that.
Of course, there's a big touchscreen, as there always is these days.
But there are physical buttons for the climate control, which is good. Do we have a physical button for the volume? Probably not.
No, that does seem to be on the touchscreen. However, if you remember the Mark II Clio, and possibly even the Mark 1, it does have an audio stalk down by your left, or your right knee, should I say, sorry, down the side here, which, well, that'd be very familiar to anyone that's ever driven anything Renault, really, since the 90s. And I'm amazed they've stuck with it, but there you go, it is still there. Doesn't mean that you get out of having buttons on the steering wheel, though. There are, well, lots. Here we go. So in our quest to try and find a car that handles a bit like the Fiesta as an alternative for you, we decided that we would try this. And here we are, trying this. So, thoughts on the driving position? Quite comfy. I can instantly slip myself into the seat. It's quite supportive, it's quite comfortable. Visibility is good around me. This is feels fine, really. 1.2 litre engine, 3-cylinder. It's okay. It has the sort of throb you expect from a 3-cylinder engine, and there are lots of them, of course, these days. As manufacturers try and make their way through emissions regulations and try and get underneath 122 grams of CO2 per kilometre. That's exciting, isn't it? Effectively, after every gram, they get beyond 120 grams of CO2 average across their fleet. They get fined £89 per car per gram. So there's a lot of motivation to do that. But with Renault, of course, they've got lots of electric product and lots coming. So the Renault 5, which we're really interested in, that should be pretty decent. And of course, there is the Megane E-Tech, there is the Renault Scenic. And do you know what? It's picking up pretty well, really. Certainly haven't got any complaints in terms of its power, pickup, delivery, in terms of handling. This is a relatively tight apex. I deliberately turned in a bit late to see what would happen. It didn't unsettle it. So we get through here. The advantage of being both sides of the road on this course. Yep. It handles in a very tidy fashion. There is a little bit of understeer, as you probably expect from a front-wheel drive car, but look, if you want to, you can take the apex of the corner. This being, of course, a one-way circuit, so you can use both sides of the road. And you certainly don't embarrass yourself. Going into a tight left-hander. Composure and control is really good. We're not completely without body roll, but it seems to be really well controlled, to be honest. I'm certainly not uncomfortable here. Here we go, over the top of this crest. Back end getting unsettled, as of course it should do. You also have to go relatively hard on the brakes here, and yeah, the bike's quite high up. There's relatively good pedal modulation, and I quite like it. We're following this Type R. A really good little car. So in the handling stakes, if there's a B road near you and you want to pedal your way through, and of course you can do that because you have a gearbox, which is pretty good. It's maybe not as direct as the Fords, to be completely honest, but it has a positive shift and you can't really argue with it. Clutch feels pretty good. And of course, as with most cars, it's a 6-speeder, so pop it into high gear on the motorway and you're certainly not going to be absolutely listening to it buzzing its head off. What do I think on the Clio then? Well, it's comfortable, it's got a reasonable sized boot, it seems to be well thought of on the interior. They don't seem to have skimped particularly on the materials. There are a few bits of plastic here and there on the controls. They feel fine. The bits that you actually touch, they feel pretty good. And the stuff that you look at, well, that looks good too. So I would say not a bad little car. The outside then, well, the design's pretty smart, isn't it? But then Renault have always been pretty good at that. All the Clios have looked relatively decent to my eyes. I do quite like the fake centre lockers. Look at those. Look really quite smart. All-round discs, concealed back door handles, reasonable amount of space in the back. The only thing I don't particularly like, I have to say, is the boot release, which is down here, and then you have to put your hand in the gap. But a reasonable size boot. Nice details in the lamps. This one's got a few extra options, things like the blind spot indicator system, which is quite smart, so if something comes along your rear quarter, yeah, you can sort of see it there, gives you a warning. And the familiar Renault face as well there, look. And a gym.
Hi. First impressions, I really quite like this, to be honest. I think it's quite nice. It's just a nice, buzzy, fun way. It's got good brakes, which is quite useful. Good little car, this. I'm instantly quite comfy. It's got nice driving position, nice and relaxed. Feels roomy up front. Not sure how much room there is behind me. But on our quest for a Fiesta alternative today, or it seems to have turned into a quest for a Fiesta alternative, there's probably about the same amount of room behind me as there is in a Fiesta. Yeah, I'm quite liking this. I like the dashboard. I like the little touches, the thought, the care and the attention. The seat belts, for example. Look at the seat belts, just having the edges of them in blue. It's just a nice little touch, isn't it? It doesn't cost anything extra, but it shows that somebody's thought about it, and it's a nice little thing. Gear changes, you say, not quite as slick as a Fiesta. Could certainly do to be a bit better engineered there. We can go for an overtake here. Well, we've managed it. Brake slightly late. Grips on pretty well. Yeah, nice and composed. Final thoughts. I really quite like this. I know this is the higher spec, isn't it? It's the Esprit Alpine. So it's got all the nice bits and pieces. So comparing it to our dearly departed Fiesta, what's this? An ST Line X? It's got to be, isn't it? It's fairly high up in trim levels and fairly humble in engine power. I think this is a nicer place to sit, if I'm honest. Yeah, just slightly tighten up the gear lever action, and I think you're about there, to be honest. The handling's cracking, playful, nice. Like you say, that the volume control stalk is very dated, but I like the little touches. This is a car that's had some passion put into it and some design put into it, rather than penny pinching, taking all the features out of it. Still got some physical buttons. Got 2 blanking buttons there, so again it reminds you you're not in quite the best model you could be, which is nice. Yeah, we like this. Oh, we've got a heated steering wheel. Let's put that on. Well done, Renault. Chapeau. Right, what are we doing?
So what
what we thought we'd try is
we're joining the high-speed bulb in a Mark 1 Kia Picanto, and why that is important is because this is my first car, and of course what you do in your first car,
pardon?
You try and make sure that it will do what it needs to do. Now I'm trying to get to 100 miles an hour, so we're currently doing 70.
Well, put your foot down.
My foot is welded to the floor in 4th gear. There's an R8 coming up, but I suspect we can probably do better. Here we go. It's wait for him to move out of the way. Hurry up. Right, here's the thing. Can we get up behind this?
We slipstream the Audi.
No, he's gone. We're at a steady 80, and this is as fast as it'll go. No, we're doing it at 90.
If you put your foot down,
it is welded to the floor. Here we go. Right, so my first car was a Kia Picanto, a silver one, an SE, which is a much higher spec than this one. Why is this guy slowing down? That's the question. I might have to flash him out of the way in this Kia Picanto. I had electric windows all round. It had a CD player with MP3 functionality.
pardon?
It had electric mirrors, air conditioning, and was about £100 a month with £1 down. So it was pretty good.
Oh, hang on.
Turn the aircon off, that's it, reduce the drag. We've just gained 2 miles an hour. Here we go. So is the car as good as the memory? Well, this one's done 19,000 miles. Presumably not all of them going round trying to get to 100 miles an hour. That's 95 indicated. It's noisier than I remember, truth be told, but this was 2004, so it was a long time ago. We're just reaching 99 miles an hour. Cue the music. Here we go. I never did this in my own car, of course. In fact, I don't think I ever got anywhere beyond 70, but we're about to do it. It turns out if you have a derestricted track...
No, we're slowing down.
No!
Straighten up, straighten the steering.
Well, I will do in a minute. Here we go. No! Right, I'm going to slingshot out of the corner. Let's see if that gives us any more pace. Right, I'm going to come up to the top. Here we go. We can't go into that outer lane. That's for professional drivers only, and I'm not that. So we're going to try something that they try in small planes, which is get that bit higher and then try and dive down. Here we go. We're going to get right up to the side. There's nothing around me at all, so we're safe to do so. Here we go, I'm diving down towards the left-hand side of my lane, and I think this is the best we're going to do. I think we got to about 99 miles an hour, which is the which is about as much as this thing is capable of. But there we go. And all of this was doing 60 mpg, because back in my day it used to cost me 25 quid to fill it up. I assume that's not the case now. Oh, 97. We're on the flat bit. Oh. Come on! Come on! Oh. I think that's our lot. The wind is now really picking up. We're starting to get some buffeting. So I'm going to slow us down gently and look for the exit. So there you have it. Some nostalgia for my very first car.
So I think this is the first time I've driven a Kia Picanto. First impressions, I don't quite fit in it, unfortunately. I think there's a bit of a height difference between us, isn't there? I'm 6 foot and you're just over 4'10". So there's I could do with a bit more leg room, but that's all there is, I'm afraid. I can't go back any further. So just a little bit cramped, but it's a little car, isn't it? It's quite cheaply made and quite cheaply put together, but it's got all the bits and pieces. Yeah, it's got cheap plastic everywhere. But how much did you pay for this in 2008?
I got mine as a pre-registered car. I paid, I think, £6,795 for it.
£6,795
yes.
for a brand new car.
Well, it might have been £6,495, and if you bought it brand new, ordered it from the factory, it was £7,295, I think. So yeah, it was just about £1,000 cheaper. So this car was, I mean, this particular spec, which is a sort of a low spec vehicle, this would have been, well, probably sub £6,000.
Tell you, it does highlight the importance of always being the right gear at the right time. I think we are incredibly spoiled with modern engines and the torque that they have. I think a turbocharger, as long as it's somewhere vaguely in the power band, which, thanks to modern trickery, most turbos are in the power band most of the time. It's not like the old days with lots of lag and hybrid systems and all that kind of stuff. It's you don't really need to pay too much attention to being in the right gear at the right time. But in this, if you're not in the right gear, there's absolutely nothing there. But we're pressing on all right. We're keeping up with whatever it is in front of us that was just braking so hard he'd somehow managed to activate the hazard light. I'm not quite sure how we managed that, but we're keeping up with him. I quite like this. I think if I'd have had this as my first car, it's a good indicator tick, I'd be quite happy with it if it was brand new or very nearly brand new when I first got it. Like I say, I think I'd have to work out a way of putting the seats slightly further back because they don't quite fit in it. But apart from that, that's everything you need. Good cheap little car, and I like honest cars, and this is just an honest car, and actually it's quite fun to chuck around, and not so quick you get yourself into so much trouble, is it?
No, I think mine had a bit more poke than this. I seem to remember mine was a 1.1, and this is, of course, the smaller, lower spec vehicle. So maybe just having that extra power made all the difference, and maybe I would have made that extra 1 mile an hour. You never know.
It would have made all the difference. Well, are we done? It's been a long day. We were up early, and we're still going, just about, but we're flagging a bit, aren't we?
This is. I got up at 4:30, and it's now 10 to 5. So yeah, I think we're getting to that sort of point where it's starting to get a bit tired. Bearing in mind there's only a few hours to get home, but we have just ended the day driving my first car, or a sort of version of my first car, which I think is somewhat fitting.
Yeah, that was a good little car, that. Like I say, if that was my first car, I'd have had to have got a couple of plates of steel out and sort of somehow move the driver's seat back ever so slightly. But me being 6 foot tall and you being just over 3'6", then there's a bit of a height difference. So you fitted, I didn't quite, but charming little car. I quite like that.
It was a nice little trip down memory lane. Mine was definitely quicker than that. It was that extra 100 cc's made all the difference, and I don't doubt that if it was still around and probably hadn't been scrapped about 10 or 15 years ago, bearing in mind it's like a 2004 car, then I reckon we could taken it here and done exactly that with it. But there you go.
I mean, it's one of their heritage and off their press fleet. I have just suddenly thought, how old were the tyres as we were bobbling around the high-speed bowl? Probably not brand new, I would suggest.
Well, better than that. So it turns out they're rated for about 75 miles an hour. But the good news is, I think we've done pretty well out of it. So there's been some great cars we've driven today. We've seen some interesting stuff. Some of the newcomers to the country as well. They've been here and represented, been popular and out pretty much all the day. So we haven't had a chance to drive very much of those. But we have been out there and we've driven some quite impressive cars. Some stuff which is certainly quick enough, like the EX30, which in rear-wheel drive extended range form I thought was pretty pacey. But not as pacey as your favourite, I suspect.
I was going to say, yeah, I found the i5 M60 to be adequately pacey, enough to rearrange time and space, pretty much. So that was pretty good. I like that.
I probably could do with a few more than the 593 brake horsepower that it was rocking in your dog wagon.
Probably want to round it up to 600 and something, don't we, at least?
Well, they probably could have said 600. Everyone will believe it because it was just insane. It pulled G cornering, it pulled G accelerating, it pulled G braking. So yeah, if that's what you want to do constantly, then fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's just been another really well attended, really good, really action-packed day. Lots of manufacturers here. Pretty much all of them, apart from one, have got flags out and have put on a good display. So it's it's been well worthwhile.
Yeah, Ford do look remarkably non-flagged, don't they, compared to everyone else?
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out why they don't have a flag. Everybody else has got a flag. And we did mention to somebody else, we said something about Ford, and they went, Ford here? Yeah, they're over there. Where's the flag? Oh, they haven't got one. Okay. Cutbacks.
All the rest have bought big stands and things with them. I think it's probably more impressive, but there we go. Disappointed I didn't get to drive a Mazda MX-5 though. It was out for all of the day and just didn't get the chance to get behind the wheel, which is a bit of a shame. But nevertheless, I think it's been a cracking day. I want to say thank you to all of you that have listened and watched our videos, of course, and also to the SMMT for inviting us along.
Yes, a very big thank you. It's always very well organised, very well attended, and it's just a cracking day out, isn't it? So thank you for listening along and watching along, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
UKMotorTalk for the SMMT Test Day 2024. A First Take Media production.